It was a bitter winter in Vermont. The kind of cold that cuts through layers of clothing and seeps into your bones. In the small rural town of Sudbury, snow blanketed every inch of ground like a white sheet hiding secrets. Trees stood bare, their branches heavy with ice. Smoke curled from chimneys. Life moved slowly here. Quiet. Peaceful. But in January of 2015, peace would be shattered. A young woman named Denise Hart vanished into the frost. No trace. No explanation. No goodbyes. What began as a missing person case would unravel into something far darker, a horror hidden behind kind smiles, rural isolation, and betrayal. This is the story of Denise Hart. And it's one you won't forget. Denise Hart was 25 years old when she disappeared. But her story doesn't begin in Vermont. Denise was from Hartford, Connecticut. A city girl. A fighter. She was known for her infectious smile, a laugh that filled the room, and a personality that lit up even the darkest spaces. But she didn't have an easy life. Denise had struggled, with addiction, with heartbreak, with trying to find her place in a world that often felt cold. Still, she pushed forward. She had one anchor in her life, her son. A boy who adored her. She was determined to be better, to rise above her past and build a future. And for Denise, part of that healing involved Vermont. She had spent time in a rehab center there. Met people. Made friends. And when she returned in January 2015, it was supposed to be a short visit. A break. Some fresh air away from the chaos of the city. Her family knew where she was. She texted her cousin just days before she disappeared, saying everything was fine. That she'd be home soon. She never came home. And her phone went silent. January 25, 2015. The last day Denise was seen alive. She had been staying with friends in the area. According to messages and witnesses, she left that night with a man named Alan Prue. He said he was going to give her a ride. Nothing out of the ordinary. She'd ridden with him before. He was a handyman, lived nearby, seemed trustworthy. But after that ride, Denise was never seen again. Her friends called her phone, no answer. Her cousin messaged her, nothing. Her social media, once active, stopped completely. The first few days, people thought maybe she needed space. Maybe she lost her phone. But as the snow kept falling, worry turned into panic. Denise's family drove up to Vermont. They filed a missing person report. They knocked on doors. They begged for help. Police started their investigation, but early on, they hit a wall. Denise was an outsider in a small, rural town. She had a record. She was black in a mostly white area. And like so many other cases across the country, her disappearance didn't make headlines. Then, something strange happened. A car was found, burned, deep in the woods outside of Sudbury. It had been completely torched, nothing but a twisted, blackened frame. And it was the same car Denise had been driving. As the days dragged into weeks, Denise's name faded from headlines, but her family refused to stay quiet. Her cousin began posting relentlessly online, trying to keep Denise's name alive. But behind the scenes, detectives were slowly circling in on one man, Alan Prue. Who was he? Alan Prue was 30 years old. Quiet. Reserved. Lived with his longtime girlfriend, Patricia. The two were often seen together around town. Odd, but not threatening. But Alan had a history. A long one. Years before Denise ever met him, Alan had been accused of stalking a woman in a nearby town. No charges had stuck, but the incident raised eyebrows. And then there was Patricia. She was fiercely loyal to Alan. Almost unnervingly so. Friends said she followed him everywhere. They did everything together. Like a pair of shadows. Police brought Alan in for questioning. He claimed he dropped Denise off somewhere in Middlebury, about 30 minutes away. But something didn't sit right. His story kept changing. One moment, he said she asked to be let out of the car. The next, he wasn't sure exactly where. No one else had seen her. And then there were the phone records. Denise's last calls and texts had been to Alan. They talked for over an hour the night she disappeared. But Alan didn't mention that.
Why?
Police asked to search his home. Alan refused. Legally, he could. But in the world of investigations, a refusal can speak volumes. Meanwhile, Patricia had grown distant. Friends said she was quieter than usual. Nervous. Skittish. In small towns like Sudbury, secrets don't stay buried for long. And neither would Denise. Nearly a month after Denise went missing, investigators returned to the site where her burned car was found. Snow had melted slightly, revealing more of the scene. The car was destroyed, twisted metal, scorched fabric, shattered glass. But nearby, something caught a trooper's eye. Beneath a pile of brush, partially frozen into the ground, were bone fragments. Human. Forensic teams descended on the site. They carefully removed layer after layer of snow, dirt, ash. What they found were partial remains, bones that had been burned and scattered. DNA tests confirmed it. Denise Hart had been found. But this wasn't a tragic accident. This was deliberate. Someone had tried to burn her body. Someone had tried to erase her. And police already knew who that someone was. Now, it was just a matter of breaking them. On April 6, 2015, 3 months after Denise disappeared, Patricia sat down with police. And then, she broke. What she told them chilled even seasoned investigators. Patricia admitted that Alan had lured Denise over the night of January 25th. He told her he had weed. Said he wanted to hang out. Once Denise was inside the house, Alan made his move. An argument broke out. Maybe about sex. Maybe about drugs. No one would ever know for sure. But suddenly, it turned violent. Alan grabbed her. Slammed her against the wall. He strangled her. Patricia said she watched. Frozen. Silent. And then, it was over. Denise Hart was dead. Patricia said Alan panicked. They wrapped the body. Drove it deep into the woods. And there, they set her on fire. They stayed for hours, feeding the flames, until there was almost nothing left. Alan drove back, as if nothing happened. 4 months, they lied. Smiled at neighbors. Went about their lives. But the truth doesn't stay buried forever. Alan Prue was arrested and charged with second-degree murder, unlawful disposal of a body, and obstruction of justice. His trial began in 2016. The courtroom was packed. Media, family, strangers. Denise's family sat in the front row, holding pictures of her, holding hands, holding in tears. The jury heard every detail. The phone records. Patricia's testimony. The burned car. The remains. Alan showed no emotion. On the 7th day of trial, he was found guilty on all charges. He was sentenced to life in prison without parole. Patricia received a reduced sentence for her cooperation. She served 5 years. Denise's family never got to say goodbye. Her son never got to see his mother again. Denise Hart's story is not just a tragedy. It's a mirror of how society treats women, especially women of color. Her disappearance didn't make national news. Her name wasn't trending. But her family fought. And they kept fighting. Because every life is worth remembering. Denise was not perfect, but she was human. She was loved. She mattered. And even in the silence of a snowy Vermont forest, her voice still echoes. We must do better. We must listen. We must care. Because justice should not depend on who you are or where you're from. Denise, we remember you. And we will not forget. If this story moved you, please like, share, and subscribe. Help us give voices to the voiceless. And remember, behind every missing person is a family that still hopes.